Okay. You guys ready? And I'm going to ask you questions, but you address Chris's camera.
Okay.
Okay?
I mean, we've seen so many firsts. I mean, I saw my first Ku Klux Klan person here. You know, I saw my first Indians come here. I got to meet Yasser Arafat, and he smelled bad. And I wanted to tell him he smelled bad, but oh, golly, it was bad. I guess he smelled like a camel, I don't know. But anyway, I told Mr. Jimmy. Mr. Jimmy said, "What'd you think about my friend?" I said, "He stinks," you know.
Yeah,
We can just tell you all kind of stories.
We've had Lulu Roman and the lady that used to have the short shorts on Hee Haw.
I crossed a karate blow with a pig. What'd you get? A pork chop.
We've had politicians come to church. We've had Andrew Young speak at our church.
Andy has heard me say this many times, and I've never said it about anyone else. Of all the people I've ever known in public service, Andy Young is the best.
So help me God.
When somebody says, "Where are you from?" and we say Plains, and they kind of look at us like, where in the world is Plains? Well, then if we continue on and say Plains, peanuts, and a president, they know exactly where we're from.
Decision 80.
It is early on this election night, but already there is a lot of good news for Ronald Reagan of California and a lot of bad news for Jimmy Carter, the president from Georgia.
I wanted to serve as president because I love this country and because I love the people of this nation.
And we love you.
I promised you 4 years ago that I would never lie to you, so I can't stand here tonight and say it doesn't hurt.
In a few days, I will lay down my official responsibilities in this office to take up once more the only title in our democracy superior to that of president, the title of citizen.
Shortly after the inaugural ceremony, former President Jimmy Carter took off for Georgia and a welcome home by his neighbors in Plains.
He found a big crowd waiting in drizzling rain to welcome him. Perhaps triple the normal population of this little Georgia town. Also there to greet him, his mother, Miss Lillian. The famous Carter smile flashed as the former president made his way through the well-wishers. But it had been a wrenching day for Mr. Carter.
You've honored us beyond anything imaginable as I walk the streets of this town to sell boiled peanuts to the merchants in the stores here. And we hope forever to honor you with our lives in the years to come in being great Americans, and being good Georgians, and being good Sumter Countyans, and good residents of Plains, Georgia. God bless you. We love you all.
This is my sister and her aunt and my niece.
Hey.
Hey. Well, we're gonna fall. You gonna fall in, going that way. We're
Tell
going
me
that.
what we're doing today.
We're doing a parade today for a 96th birthday for some guy that we know a little bit.
96 years young.
Yes, right. 96 years young.
Right,
And I'm about to back around and try not to throw them off the back.
With a diverse group of people, this is what our country looks like. This is what we need, to bring us all together. Both black, white, and brown, all of us are here together. Town of Plains, friends of Jimmy Carter, church members, we're all getting together and we're going to drive by and celebrate his birthday. Turning 96, he might make it to 110. A servant leader, helping out with a servant leader. So today I'm really excited about making this happen for him.
Is that the president talking to you in that video?
That's right.
And it's a peanut parade for Mr. Jimmy Carter's 96th birthday. We all.
What are you doing?
If you wanna be a leader, get lower than the rest.
Today we did a first for President Carter. We had a drive by his house, and we just kind of kept it to the local people. We didn't let the news media know, but some of them found out anyway, but they weren't allowed to film. So the Secret Service swung open the gate and let us go through, and Kim Carter Fuller, who is Jimmy Carter's niece, asked George Sunday at church, because we own a peanut warehouse, would it be possible to have a load of peanuts with a tractor pulling it in the parade? Probably the first time a load of peanuts have ever been by Mr. Jimmy's house. Of course, Mr. Jimmy and his family owned a peanut business here in Plains, also called Carter's Peanut Warehouse. So he was our #1 competitor here in Plains, but we still were friends and we got along well. And I know that we heard Miss Roseland say, "Yay, a load of peanuts!"
How did you come to be such a large presence in the town of Plains?
Because we only have 700 people in town. Of course, I work downtown. I'm the director of the Friends of Jimmy Carter. So once you work downtown and you see everybody every day, you just kind of naturally fall into it. I kind of fell into a position on city council. Somebody else had to leave, so I said, well, I'll just try it out, and if I want to run, I'll do it. And so I ran, but nobody ran against me, so I got it.
The plane will be here in about 15 minutes, so if you're ready and you want to stay where you are, you better hold your seat.
These are people from Americas. These are from Americas. They know how to behave. Excuse me. To make God understandable, sometimes we make him trivial. It has been very intimidating at times to teach when Uncle Jimmy is in the congregation. Political candidates will say anything they think you want to hear. But Uncle Jimmy didn't. He was a young man from South Georgia who grew peanuts. And over the course of his life and his career, he moved up by always standing the way he was supposed to. Uncle Jimmy wasn't a people that started with him. He wasn't a people pleaser. Now, you pleased me because you loved me, okay? There were Sundays when I didn't. He would get home earlier than he thought, and he would come on to Sunday school, and I'd say, oh, crap. and I'd look at him, and did I say that right?
When was the funeral, anybody know?
Friday night.
Saturday night. Saturday night.
Now, last Sunday before, I noticed when I got home that he had tried to call me, and I thought, oh, good, he's going to tell me I've done a good job. And this is what he said. Kim, the next time somebody from the audience comments, make sure they have a microphone. Thank you. I went, okay. Growing up in this area, it was very quiet. At the time, to begin with, your life kind of centered around school and church. But then the 70s came in, and President Carter decided to run for governor, and we had a lot of people coming in because of that. And then, of course, he announced that he was going to run for president, and so it just exploded.
This has been a long and a personal campaign, a kind of humbling experience, reminding us that ultimate political influence rests not with a power broker, but with the people.
I don't want to go anywhere else. I don't understand why people want to leave. Yeah.
I called him Mr. Jimmy because I've been knowing him ever since I can remember. He was a wonderful president, and we love him, and we love Miss Rose and the whole family.
Well, what about your mother?
My mother dated him a little bit in high school, and years later, my wife says, why didn't you date him more? And my mother said, I really wasn't impressed with him then. But those two ladies married the right men.
They did.
Really did. This is Williams Warehouse Complex. I can't tell you what year it was made in, but that's the latest picture we have of it. Those trees there, nothing there, those pecan trees. Back when Mr. Jim was running, we had 10,000 people a day. A lot of tourists thought those were peanut trees. We got 75 grams, just peanuts, no hulls, no rocks. Except moisture on every load that comes in. You got 3 bars on this cylinder. Go round and around, peanuts in your hulls fall through. We shill about 6 hours before we fill up a semi-truck.
I grew up on a big farm about 25 miles from here. And to be honest, the African Americans could not afford a combine. So, of course, when the white farmers got the combines, the really nice white farmers, like my dad, would take our combine to the black farmers' farms and go to those poles, and they would take their peanuts off and run them through my dad's combine. And we were able to help them that way. So, you know, we've all worked together.
We've come a long way in the farming industry.
Is that unusual that there would be some kind of kindness or goodwill between a Caucasian and an African American?
I don't think so. Now, Mr. Jimmy talks a lot about how he grew up out in the country and the only neighbors he had were black people or African Americans. Well, I was the same way. And the first time I really saw my dad ever cry was at a funeral for Paps, who worked on our farm, who taught my daddy how to farm, and he had to speak at Paps's funeral. So I would say in the Deep South, we love the African Americans who are part of our life, especially if you are a farmer living in the rural area.
Well, they really helped the farmers years ago. You know, pick cotton, pick peas. You just couldn't do without them, and you know, it's just love for all of them.
I have a lot of black friends, and we'll say that we're sisters, but we have different mothers. So that pretty well makes the tourists go, okay,
Yeah.
you know.
We're ready.
You in? I'm good.
I'm ready.
It's got a little caravan here.
Oh, you're kidding in Plains? This is a parade. Let me stop. I love my little town. That building over there was the first black-owned business uptown. It was a mercantile store. Guys got Carter's filling station over there.
Oh, yeah. We did an interview in there with Kim, yeah.
Okay. Well, the reason why we have our own post office is because the Carter there used to have a worm farm, and he'd export worms all over the United States. Otherwise, their population wouldn't support our own personal post office. So that's something. We're going right now. We're right in front of Plains Peanut and Grain. They process a lot of the peanuts that are shipped all over the world today. Okay, this street is parallel to Hudson Street, which is predominantly black. And this street, 308, is predominantly white. Right directly across from each other. There's Hudson Street right there. And that's a black street, or a street owned predominantly by black people.
Tell me about your time as Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, yes, I was on the city council, and whether you volunteer for it or not, you spend a year as Mayor Pro Tem here in the city of Plains. And my boss, he published it in our little local hospital newspaper that I was Mayor of Plains. I said, that's wrong, I'm not Mayor of Plains, I'm Mayor Pro Tem. And I said, why didn't you do it that way? He said, I can't spell Pro Tem. When I first moved here, our city council was all white people with 2 white women on it. Now our city council, I believe, is half and half, because the demographics of our city is pretty much half and half. The black population was real reticent about voting. They didn't think that it was important, or they were led to believe it wasn't important. And Bowman Wiley, the first black person to run for the city council, when he went to bed, he says he was a winner, and when he woke up in the morning, he had lost. So the next time the election rolled around for the city, we had poll watchers. And he ran again. He didn't give up. When back in those days, that wasn't a thing to do.
Why was it not the thing to do?
I don't know if you want to go down their rabbit hole.
Let's try.
We had a very strong organization here that used to have meetings at a restaurant called Country Corner Kitchen. And they would have regular little meetings and marches and that kind of stuff with the white suits and all that. And a lot of people were very intimidated. One lady who was a senior citizen said if she went up there to vote, they would take her house. So that was the prevailing attitude when I first got here. And I'm not easy to intimidate.
What happened when he went to the White House?
Which time? They would always say, Buzz is a really nice guy, but don't marry him. You'll never go anywhere. You're in Plains, Georgia. I mean, that is like the end of everything they thought.
So when Jimmy got to be president, we went to the White House, and she had the White House operator call them.
And so they went, I can't believe you're there. You know, you're not really there. I said, oh, yes, I am. And it wasn't a braggy thing. Yes, it was. But we've had fun with President Carter the whole time. He's such a gentleman, and Miss Rosalind is related to Buzz. But she's such a lady, and Mr. Jimmy's always been there, and he tolerates me.
Oh, the mayor. Welcome, Mayor.
You're not shopping, honey. We're going to hand these wood. And I was that's why Buzz didn't come in.
That's a couple of friends of mine. I gave my Trump sign and somebody got it, so I'm going to give them another one.
Politically, Carter is more on the liberal side or Democratic side.
Right.
We don't bring it up. We're at my house, our house.
We don't really talk about that. You know, he knows how I feel, and I know how he feels. You have to respect other people's opinions, you know. We all are different people.
Even though it's wrong.
I mean, we obviously have different opinions about different things, and I have different opinions with my kids, but that doesn't mean I don't love them. But, I mean, I have black friends, and I tell them I do not like the term Afro-American because it separates. You're an American or you're not, and you shouldn't distinguish black or white. See, I grew up with black kids, and we were all poor, all of us. And nobody taught me to hate anybody because they were black. And we played together, we built forts together, we shot marbles. And
a lot like Mr. Jimmy.
We just never, I just wasn't taught to hate anybody.
You know, somebody from up north said, I never had a race problem. You know, but he never knew anybody black. When I went to the seminary up north, it was interesting that all of my good friends, my best friends, were white Southerners. You know, they understood what we had together been through. They understood the burdens and the pain and the struggles. I mean, Black Lives Matter is a wonderful slogan. It's mobilized people all around the world. But when you're sitting in the presidency of the United States, what does it mean? And Carter knew what it meant. Jimmy Carter seemed to place his whole presidency in the agenda of Martin Luther King, because I think he knew what was going on in his childhood, and his mother was a saint, you know, a whiskey-drinking saint. But she delivered every baby in a county that was 80% black. And any baby she delivered, she treated as one of her children. Now, his daddy wasn't comfortable with that. But Dr. King used to have a phrase that I applied to Jimmy Carter, that greatness is achieved by antitheses strongly marked. You've got to have a tough mind and a tender heart. And in Jimmy Carter's life, his daddy was the tough mind. His mother was the tender heart. And he was always torn how to reconcile those in his own life. And it's not easy.
I'm honored and happy and privileged to be on this podium with the greatest president in the world.
I come here grateful, and I accept this award not as an honor that I have earned, but as an affirmation that I share the hopes and dreams of Martin Luther King Jr., and I recognize the tremendous progress still left to be made, and we will prevail in the struggle for human rights because men and women like Daddy King, Martin Luther King Jr., Coretta King, Andy Young, and all those in the civil rights movement will never stop believing in the promise of our democracy. We must never forget his dream. Together we can make it come true. Thank you very much. At the end of a long campaign, I believe I know our people of this state as well as anyone could, based on this knowledge of Georgians, north and south, rural and urban, liberal and conservative. I say to you quite frankly that the time for racial discrimination is over. Our people have already made this major and difficult decision, but we cannot underestimate the challenge of hundreds of minor decisions yet to be made.
You know, there's some rich history in South Georgia, and there's some remnant of the past that is still haunting people. You know, we got a city where literally blacks are on one side of the tracks and whites are on the other side of the track. But here's one for you. We have cemeteries here in this area where whites are buried on one side and blacks are buried on the other side. And President Carter is trying to get the dirt road paved on the black side because it's paved on the white side, but not on the black side. So even in death, we're separated.
We grew up on one side, they were on the other side. You know what I mean? We didn't mix like we are mixing now. And the black was basically all we knew. Because I never rode a school bus to school. And we had to walk to school. And they would pass us on the bus. And of course, you know, they did ugly things. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't easy, but we had no choice. Mm-hmm. We said maybe one day things would get better.
They went to different schools and different churches. You know, I didn't know it was a racial thing. I just thought that's the way it was. They had a brand new school, and we had a school built in the 30s. Their school was actually better than ours. So I just never gave it a thought. And I was a kid. You know, what was I supposed to think? The black kids were our friends too.
I had kind of grown up thinking when somebody says, oh, they're from the other side of the tracks, that was just a turn of phrase. That is literally what is meant in places like Plains. And I think we've driven through many small towns that have the same kind of distinctive micro communities, I guess you would say. I think we have been really intentional in trying to understand some of the dynamics, which we can only understand from our limited perspective as being white northern people who are new to the South.
Back in the 60s, it was a very rough time. There was a farm not too far from here called Koinonia Farm. It was a community of black and whites. and they were bombed. Their buildings were set on fire. Their people were harassed just because it was blacks and whites living together. So you add integration into that, it made tensions very high in Plains.
When integration of schools was being introduced, at Plains High School, families were being urged to boycott the school. My family and probably 3 or 4 other families were the only ones who went to school that day. My friends all knew that there were certain words that they used very freely that I was not going to use, you know, about other races. I mean, and they knew that people were welcomed in our house, that were not welcomed in their house, but they never said, Kim, oh, your family's weird, or oh, your daddy's wrong, or your mama's wrong, or your grandma, or your uncle. They're all wrong for that. But all around us, it was happening. All around us.
There was a man who stood up in Plains Baptist Church and said that there'll be no blacks in heaven, so there'll be no blacks in my church. And I led the little children's choir, and their second favorite song to sing was Jesus Loves the Little Children of the World, red and yellow. And I thought, I am in the wrong church.
I can remember as a teenager, men and women who were role models for me stand up and express themselves. I was devastated. You know, we've all lived together, and then all of a sudden they were saying, you know, their thoughts about race that I never realized that how they believed.
There was a guy from Albany, Georgia, Reverend Clinton King. He wanted to join Plains Baptist. He finally came, and we called off church. So everybody walked out of church and left him on the church doorsteps.
He had let it be known ahead of time that he was coming and he was going to join our church. That just put fuel to the fire, because they weren't going to have that. They were not going to let him come in.
In the South, there's always been that division, you know, black and white. And God accepts anybody, so why not us accept anybody? It was just a sad time.
What you see in the Maranatha Baptist Church is an effort to struggle with a real partnership, a brotherhood and sisterhood, becoming a real family. And in a real family, me and my brother are different.
And I know Mr. Jimmy, all he asked us to do was be kind to the person in front of him.
That's what we try to do at Maranatha, and in Plains, and in where we are.
Morning, everybody. Good morning. This is a special chair that the church just provided for real old people. That's fine. That's good. Okay, how many of you think that we could help make America great by helping just one person lead a better life? Yes. That in the next month, you're going to look around in your own family or right close to you. Just pick out somebody, maybe an old person that's living by themselves or something, and you might say, why don't you let me check on you every now and then, or next time I bake a cake, I'll bring you at least a half of the cake. and just go by their house and have a cup of coffee with them. Like Mother Teresa said, not extraordinary things, not great things, just simple things. I think that will make America better.
The Carter family moving their membership from Plains Baptist to Maranatha was a really, really powerful statement at that time in the Deep South, in Plains, Georgia. It was an example manifested through the Carters that I think helped to make the city of Plains and that area a much more inclusive community.
We look back, especially blacks, and we think about the pain that's been inflicted upon us down through the years, and it hurt. I've been in this world long enough to realize And I trust in God enough to believe anything is possible. But you have to be willing to accept change.
Most people are like, what are you talking about? Racism? What's racism? What's systematic racism? We'll put lipstick on a pig and it's still a pig, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think there is a lot of dressing up of what everyone's thinking. Or not everyone. I shouldn't say everyone, I'm sorry. That's not the, that shouldn't be the phrase. Because that's not how we think.
I don't think prejudice is what people think it is. It's just me trying to do the best for my family. And in fact, I had one woman tell me one time, well, I'm white. And that covered her rationale for what she was doing, because she would use those resources to get the best thing she could for her family. And you can't be mad at somebody for doing that. Hannibal crossed the Alps because he was going to go over there and steal all those people's stuff and rape all them women, you know. That's what the thing is.
You had to describe the people of Plains. How would you describe them?
What you mean now? Which one? I'm gonna put it like this: there are some good white people in Plains, I feel like, and I feel like there's some good black ones. Now, how many black ones have you interviewed since you've been here?
You're the first.
That might be the last.
President Carter contacted me about a year and a half ago and said, I want to eradicate substandard housing in Plains. So we set out doing that with the help of a lot of people in the city, especially Councilwoman A.B. Jackson. I remember he was in the hospital last December, and I hadn't seen him in a while because he had a brain surgery. And he called me in. He said, Jill, what are you doing about the Habitat Project? Have you been working? So, you know, he was in ICU, but he didn't care about anything except helping others.
Well, I always did believe in taking care of my house. President Carter and them used to come down. They like to sit down, and they were telling me how nice and that I kept it, you know. So they wasn't ashamed to sit down in my house. Sure wasn't. I mean, I took care of my house, but I couldn't afford to put no roof on it. I know it needed one, but I couldn't afford it. I can rest at night now. I don't have to worry about the roof falling in on me.
So Andy is writing a check for the Carter Plains Foundation, turning on the water for a gentleman in town who's a Marine veteran who hasn't had water in 2.5 years. So we're going to turn his water on today. It's a great day. Hey, Urban. Mr. Irvin dries his clothes in that bush.
Hello?
Hey, Irvin, it's Jill.
How you doing?
Good. Where are you?
I'm down here helping the man pick up pecan.
Okay. We got your water is going to be turned on in just any second.
Thank you.
You're welcome. President Carter, he hasn't gone out of the house for really since the pandemic. This is November of 2020, but he just could not stay in any longer. He wanted to see what we're doing to help friends and neighbors of his. The house that we're going to visit with him is Alonzo Davis. When President Carter was growing up, he had a best friend, and that was A.D. Davis. That was Alonzo's dad. So it's going to be a very, very special time, I think, for Alonzo and definitely for President and Mrs. Carter.
Mr. President, what was your first encounter with racism?
Well, I grew up in a community that was completely segregated. There was no mixing of black and white people as far as social things are concerned. Well, my mother was a registered nurse practicing her medical profession every day, and so she didn't pay any attention to racial segregation. I didn't have any close white friends at that time. My only white friends were at school or church, but I got along well with my neighbors with whom I hunted and fished and worked in the field, all of whom were black, by the way. So we were very close to them and treated them as equals as much as we could, just common decency and respect.
Alonzo, tell him who your dad is.
Bumpy. This is Baby's house.
I know. You gotta visit Amy's house first. He's been a lot to me.
Is that right?
Yeah. He grew up with Dad. He was a friend when they were growing up.
Wow.
Yeah, he's my best friend. Visit your house first. You'll have a good weekend. Thank you.
I was about 14 years old, I guess, and so were my friends. And I was coming out of a gate into the barn, and they stepped back and let me go first. I thought it was a trick or something, that I would trip on the tripwire and fall on my face. Later, I realized their parents had probably told them that we had reached an age where they had to separate, socially as well as racially. So that was my first experience with being treated as a superior just because I was white. And I didn't like it much, but that passage gate experience was an eye-opener to me.
Where the paved run off.
Yes, I've been down there.
You been down to that
Towards
church?
where St. Mark's is, yeah.
Yeah,
all the way down.
Well, I did that. I would say there used to be a lot, about 30 families or more like that, but they were all black. The Carters and the Bacons, the Watson, the man that worked for he was the captain of the railroad, right there where the paved run off at. That's where Mr. Watson lived, and that was a white family. And the rest of them, other than the Carters, that was the only white folks out there. And we just got along just like a family. All my children was born on the Carter farm. And they were good people. So Jimmy's mother and my mother worked at the nursing home, and Miss Lillian called us her black family, her black children, and she treated us like that. The only difference I could see was they was one color and I was another one, but I had no control over that.
As a child, Jimmy Carter worked on the farm, but he worked along with the neighbors who were African American who worked for his father. His family was very welcoming and would share on levels with the African Americans in different ways from the way most Caucasians interacted with African Americans.
He grew up in Archery, Georgia, a community just outside of Plains, a couple miles. Most all his friends were African American children. And then there was a moment where his friends started treating him different. So obviously their parents had said to him, okay, now you're older, now you have to treat Jimmy with respect because he's white. And Jimmy was cognizant of that from a very early age and felt it was wrong.
There are so many African Americans in this city that he has helped personally. I got pictures of him sitting on their porches. Yes, the 39th president sitting on your porch, right? And he's asking them, what do you need? And if you know anything about the lady that raised him, it was the black woman, Miss Clark, that really poured into him. And he has never forgotten that.
I think that we've heard and seen many instances of the Carters kind of not feeling that two-side of the tracks situation. When Ken went with Mrs. Carter, maybe we'd only been living here a few months at the time to go deliver food. I feel like that was exposure to the other side of the tracks and a recognition that like there were activities that the Carters would do, it didn't matter where they were. And I think we've seen that play out.
She's influenced a lot of people too, because she would see pictures when they'd go abroad, those poor countries, and she would have them up in her arms, and she's just interested in people. You know, no matter how lowly they are.
I think they care for people just like I do. I don't see color. I see people. And if I can help you, I don't mind, and that's the way I feel about them.
Blacks and whites and Plains, I feel like we are partly integrated. We have growing pains from time to time, but we are trying to, how can I say, overcome a lot of this. And we look back on our 39th president of the United States and how his message is for hope and love. And we can't help but have some of that rub off on us.
Because of President Carter's influence, how has that shaped Plains?
I think it's kind of broadened the way we look at the world. We got to meet Sadat, Begin. Yasser Arafat kissed me, and I caught hell from my friends. But
On the cheek. On both cheeks.
But anyway, I just learned that we're all the same, regardless of where you're from. Regardless of race, color, whatever, it doesn't matter.
You cut this chocolate skin off me, I'm gonna bleed red. If I cut that vanilla skin off you, you're gonna bleed red. What is the difference?
There's no such thing as a white race. There's no such thing as a black race. We're Mongoloid, Caucasoid, and Negroid. Even though some of us have a little bit of the shelf for the forehead, Neanderthal. Some of us have a little bit of Neanderthal in us, but outside of that, all of us are cousins. Every human being alive on Earth today are all cousins. So there's no such thing as a race. There's just us. And we either love each other or we don't.
My parents and my aunt and uncle and my grandmother and my aunts all found themselves in situations with people that the world probably said, what in the world are you doing with these, these people? They're Muslims, or they believe in idols or whatever. Why do you associate with them? You look at all the many people all over the world that my Uncle Jimmy has come in contact with, and people that normal, everyday people would not even look at. You don't just look at people. You look at people, and you learn their hearts.
Would you say Plains is truly integrated?
We're getting there.
Hi, Mary.
Hi there, how you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Let me see that picture.
Yeah. You recognize that?
With the floor thing, it just seemed more like the White House. I mean, the governor's mansion to me.
It's a cool picture.
Mm-hmm.
Of your friends.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let me look at the shots a couple times. It's a wider shot. You look nice, Mary.
Thank you.
We're rolling? Okay. First question. Where did you meet Jimmy and Rosalind?
At the governor's mansion. I went to jail April of 1970, and I went to the women's prison August of 1970, and went to the governor's mansion January 71. But once Amy got to know me and I got to know Amy, Governor Miss Carter would go out of town and I would stay right there at the governor's mansion with Amy. And according to President Carter, the parole board none of them believe that I was guilty. They all felt like I was innocent.
spell this out for me, because he became your parole officer, correct?
Yes.
How did it feel that this governor, that he believed you when you said you were innocent?
Well, I didn't know how to take him, to be honest with you. By me not being raised in Georgia, it was just kind of difficult because I was always told that it was real prejudice. But he and Miss Carter, none of the family was not prejudiced at all. They treated me like I was one of them. You know what I mean? They never treated me like an outsider.
Do you ever think about how phenomenal that is? That whole story?
And to be honest with you, it never really bothered me. I'm talking to you more than I talk to anybody. I never felt like I was popular or important.
I know two people who thought you were really important.
Jim and Rosa. Yeah, they did.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. So, Mary, where are we going right now?
We're going back to the Carter house.
And what have you been doing at the Carter house all these years?
Cooking, cleaning, traveling with the Carters, and taking care of the grands. James was born at the White House, so I took care of James until he moved to Columbus, moved to Atlanta. When Joshua came, I started going to Peachtree City, taking care of Jeff kids, Jeff and Annette's kids, and Hugo, took care of Hugo and Errol, Amy's two boys. So I kind of babysat around and cooked, cleaned, washed nine, you know, and then when they traveled, they took me with them. It was just one of those things.
Do you like your kids or the Carter kids better?
I like them the same. I like them all the same. When we came back from the White House, I was only going to stay 6 months. And Amy cried and she didn't want me to leave her. And I'm here today. That's why I'm still here. Because she didn't want me to leave her. So I promised I would never leave her. And she promised me she would never leave me. So we're still here with each other. Anymore.
So Amy's the reason you stuck around?
Yeah. Amy sent me these pictures. That's me and her on the South Lawn at the White House. And this is us getting off the helicopter downtown Plains. Coming to visit Miss Lee.
You notice how everyone's going to you, not him?
Yeah. Yeah, that's us.
You were a friend of Miss Lillian's, too.
Oh, she was a sweetheart. He said his mother always taught him everybody was created equal, didn't care who they were or what color their skin were. He had talked about Miss Lillian teaching him that a lot. And his best friend was black. You know, he said him and his friends used to walk the railroad train. He said the only thing he hated about going to the movies was when they got to the movie theater, some had to go, the blacks had to go either upstairs or downstairs, and the white had to go either upstairs or downstairs. Which is which.
I read this excerpt out of a book called How Jimmy Won. It talks about Earl Carter, Jimmy's dad.
Mm-hmm.
And it says Earl Carter's magnanimity towards the blacks who worked for him did not signify any acceptance of them as social beings. In a segregated society, he was just as prejudiced as his peers. Do you think that was true about Earl, his dad?
I don't know. I really can't say. Now, President Carter has mentioned that his dad was not as friendly as his mom. And by her being a nurse and all, and the blacks that worked on his farm, he never socialized with them.
Have you experienced racism in Plains?
No. I mean, everybody, well, there are a few people that, they won't speak, but I don't think it's racist. I think they just don't know you. And the people that I've been around, black and white that I've been around, everybody seem to know each other. Hey, Mary, how you doing? Let's have lunch, or let's just sit down and talk, go to church together. I sang with Maranatha Choir for a while. And then I just don't do it anymore.
Rosalind just having passed away a few months ago, and Jimmy being in his last days, How does that make you feel?
Well, with her, he was really sad at first because I didn't know she had got that bad because I was just dying there the day before. And Amy called me and she said, Miss, you want to see Mom? You better come on now. And I said, okay. So I just jumped in my house dress and went on down there. And I sat by the bed and held her hand. I rubbed her hand. But I got up to go to the living room, to the den where he was. And by the time I got to the door, she was gone, just like that. And I cried and cried and cried because it was just a shock to me.
President Carter, if you were to leave this world with one single message, what would that message be?
My religious faith is very important to me, and I would just like for the teachings of Jesus Christ to be implemented in the whole world. Love one another and have a complete equality of treatment of all the people, black and white, and other races as well, and treat each other the way we would like for them to treat us.
I can't hardly imagine Plains without them. Hopefully we can, keep going on. I hope he'll be proud of us.
When the day comes and he's not here anymore, this will be a sad town, a very sad town. And it'll take a lot of us a long time to give him up. But how blessed we are to have had him.
Amen.
I hope that we continue to get along like we do. Really, right now, it's all about Mr. Jimmy. And I think his memory will go on forever. And we'll be right here to meet the people and remember his teachings. And we'll miss him.
I think a lot of people have learned from what he and Mrs. Carter have lived. Because once you see a person out there living what they talk, you're either going to go along with it or live separate from it. And we all respect him, both black and white. So we're just trying to get along here in Plains.
I've seen a lot of people acting in this community to make sure that it's not a bumpy track, but it's actually a bridge that connects the two sides of town. There may only be a few people who walk across it, but you see it being built.
Hello, I'm Chip Carter, and I'm proud to be the son of Jimmy and Lois Carter. They taught us their values, Christian values, Plains, Georgia values. They taught us that every person deserves our respect, regardless of their wealth, their race, their age, their politics, their sex, their sexual orientation, or the amount of power that they have. They taught us to love our neighbors and to help them when needed. I see my parents' lives as a jigsaw puzzle with thousands of pieces. Everybody here has your picture on one of the pieces in that puzzle. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for being our friends. I raise my glass to my parents, Lois and Jimmy. Salute.
The coming together as brothers and sisters is not an easy phenomenon, especially in the atmosphere that has surrounded Jimmy Carter and Plains. But they've never stopped working at it.
Don't have no hatred in your heart against nobody, regardless of what color or race, whatever they are. You're supposed to love everybody. I feel like if we get along with love, we all will make it. That's the way I feel.
Individually, we have our stories, but as a group, we can offer maybe an example of how how people can live, not how people are supposed to live, because that sounds kind of highfalutin, but how people can live, and maybe a different picture of the Deep South. You know, we're not so bad.
It's nothing to fear. You're all a human just like I am, and all I can do is tell the truth. Now, we had some black folks that won't do right. We got some white ones won't do right, and that's life. But I learned to deal with it. If you don't want to speak to me, I don't have to speak to you. I'm going to give you the time of the day, and I'm not going to look back to see whether you speak or no.
Do you think racial unity is possible?
I don't know.